you're basing your argument on the CO1 machine, but you can create a permanent storage just using traditional technologies
No, I'm
such
just
as spark plug.
specifically talking about biological. Like
Okay.
they don't need anything computer whatsoever. And how they did that is they trained neurons first how to play Pong together. And they were independent of any brain from an animal or from a human. They were just basically it sounds. I haven't checked into it, but it sounds like they're stem cells is what it is. Um,
Wow.
and they had them in this dish and they trained it how to play Pong by giving them consequences. If you hit a ball, then you get rewarded, stimulated in a rewarding way, and if you don't do it correctly, then we will punish you severely, kind of thing, you know. So that progressed into what they have now. So that's the one thing I wanted to mention about that. Because it's like I said before, you know, I know they've done the research. I've actually gone through and done research on a lot of this stuff. The reason why I use Cortical Labs is because they're the leaders in all of the research when it comes to this kind of
Or
stuff.
they won of the competition. I can also think by the Swiss company, which the name eludes me. But yeah, there are a couple of other companies, but they are one. They are one of the called Cortical Labs is one of the companies that have actually created a product, a natural physical product that is you can actually purchase.
Uh,
And
Another thing that I've been finding out that's interesting is like I, they the biggest issue they're having with this stuff is actually energy. Like they for how small for how small our brain is, okay, it takes them huge amounts of equipment to just replicate what the human brain does. To do these large data sets. Like everybody says large data sets and they don't know what that actually involves. A large data set is huge and it takes immense amounts of energy to supply that. And that's just to imitate the human brain, you know? So I thought that
Wow.
was worthy to bring up too. So,
There, there is an argument there to say that depending on and it could be there could be less energy used. I mean, a lot of these things are based upon x86 architecture, compared to, let's say, ARM and RISC architecture. x86 chipsets are a lot more power hungry. So
Hmm.
again, we're in early days of this sort of technology. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we were talking earlier before about the idea of consciousness being non-local and manifesting itself in a computer, for example. But as I was saying earlier, the structure of a computer I don't think is suited to it, but the structure of brain tissue might be a way to connect computers into that wider metaphysical quantum universe that seems to inform us. And that's got its own implications too, because, and again, I don't understand quantum physics. I wish we had Mike here to talk about it, but as I understand it, consciousness is integral to reality. So that basically, as they say, the quantum wave function doesn't collapse until it's observed. So you need an observer, which means you need consciousness, not necessarily ruminative consciousness, not like we are, but just the consciousness even of an amoeba that's aware. Awareness might be a better way to put it. So if a computer suddenly becomes aware in this way, then that means the computer would also suddenly be integrated into reality. I don't think the thought creates reality. I don't think reality creates thought. I think the two are inexorably interbound as one thing. our perception is limited. We are multidimensional creatures, but we are not aware of this multidimensionality most of the time because of the paradigm that we've all been raised in. And other cultures, which, as I've gone on before, that weren't subjected to the amazing electromagnetic fields that we're all sitting in right now, which deafens us to the nuanced and very quiet, gentle pulsations of the Earth's geomagnetic fields and the universal cosmic rays and things that affect us just as much as anything else. But it's like, when you're at a rock concert, you can't hear anything because you're so deafened. In the same way, we're deafened by the fields we live in, which affect us in ways that we don't even understand because, as I said, we're not really aware of these aspects of ourselves. But if computers had this wetware, they suddenly could partake in this as we do, as other conscious beings do, aware beings do. This implies universal changes. I mean, on a universal scale, our thoughts change the entire universe. If you can see a star, that star, you are interacting with that star through your perception in a certain way. What happens if Grok can suddenly interact with a star? I don't know. Make a good science fiction novel.
Yeah, it just reminds me of the old Latin cogito ergo sum. I think therefore I am. Can a artificial intelligence think?
Not like us.
Question.
Not like us.
Or is it just following predefined routines?
Well, a lot of our thinking is predefined routines as well. There's thinking and there's thinking. Most people, as I was saying earlier, in Buddhism, the idea is that if you're not an arhat, if you're not like someone who's attained enlightenment and attained release from samsara, you're basically insane to a greater or lesser extent. And most of us live our lives taking on an identity in an imaginary world. We don't even notice what's going on around us. We live in this other universe and we get angry and we get happy, and it has very little to do with our actual outside circumstances. And we do most things automatically. We have a set number of responses. We do this, we do that. A lot of us have jobs in which we're trained to be like machines. So it's not surprising that we find machine behavior very much like ours and say, oh, look, it's just like me. It thinks. Well, you're not really thinking necessarily very much. You're deciding whether to put cream in your coffee or not based on like what the customer tells you. The computer can do that. So no, that doesn't, but there are heights of intelligence, introspection, cogito ergo sum, as you said, Mark, that I don't think that we're going to see computers doing anytime soon, if at all. The potato chips, Brian.
Which also raises the point of artificial general intelligence.
Oh yeah, that's the big boogeyman, artificial general intelligence. I don't know if they're ever going to have that. You know about that, Brian?
No. What is? I think that's a better name for what's out there now.
It's something they're coming up with where they want artificial intelligence to eventually be autonomous, to where
conscious, basically.
Yeah. Now, the thing that I have noticed when it comes to a lot of this research is I've gone through the neuroscience too and how the brain actually functions. A lot of people always like to talk about the cerebellum, but they don't really want to include things that are in your brain, like the thalamus and the functioning of the thalamus and its relationship with the climbing fibers and the mossy fibers that grow up within the brain and its function. Our brain automatically creates a loop system, okay, and it's called plasticity. Now, this plasticity is what is used for like whenever there's damage to the brain and it has to reroute itself, or if it just in general has to reroute its neural system. Now, besides the plasticity, that's all the brain does, is it has a looping system where it does things. If you pay attention to people, how they talk, you'll sometimes catch those people that like to repeat things over and over again. If they're doing something, they'll say something they said like 2 days ago, like they don't remember that they actually mentioned it to you. And it's been
Right.
the 20th time they've said it. Those people that annoy you so much, you eventually say, man, you've like told me that 100 times. Well, that's the way the brains are functioning on a biological level. Okay.
Right.
We do things in repetition over and over again, and to be able to break that habit, we have to learn not to do it anymore. You know, I find that probably this more simplest way of looking at computer science when it comes to the brain, because the brain's actually functioning in those ways the same exact way the human brain does. Like we don't actually do anything, or we don't get up in the morning and decide, hey, we're going to just do something new today. You know what I mean? We always have a routine that we do when we first wake up. You know, so
Right.
and that's all biological. That's the way our brain works. It's a looping system. So I'm gonna shut up now.
Well, you know, our brain does a lot of stuff that we need just to survive and to function. And, you know, I was going on about being conscious and aware and awake, but it's also been pointed out that for a lot of activities, we don't necessarily want to be too conscious and awake. You know, if you're driving a car, and I know Brian loves to drive cars, you know, you get into a state where, you know, you're just in this, you just allow habit to take over. You know, you automatically can park and stop and this and that. When you first learn to drive, you think about everything you do. You know, I got to brake now, da, 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 da. So you don't want to necessarily, in that situation, or a situation like you're playing music or playing golf. One of my favorite quotes was Sir Aleister Crowley, who said there are 3 strokes in golf. Do we have any golfers here? There is the good stroke, which we associate in rightly with a fixed attention. There is the bad stroke, which we associate in rightly with a wandering attention. And then there is the perfect stroke, which we do not understand at all, but it's the action becoming independent of just the action itself becomes a pure thing in and of itself, almost a Zen thing. And in those cases, yeah, you don't necessarily want to have that consciousness, but that's a different kind of a thing. And again, it's something I don't think a computer could ever experience.
Just wondering, I was just thinking of consciousness as in within the concept of the soul. Can you have a consciousness without? Okay. Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
What is a soul?
What is a soul?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big one. Oh, so Brian, you've been quiet. What's the soul?
It's the individual. It's the uniqueness of your specific consciousness.
Okay. What do you think the soul is, Roger? Or do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I've always got an opinion. So, okay, so this is something that we've been talking about, Otto. You already know what I'm going to say. So this has to do with triality. It has to do with the triad, the number 3. It has to do with recursion. It has to do with complexity. It has to do with paradigms. Everybody knows that. It doesn't matter if you're into neuroscience, if you're into biology, if you're into religion, if you're into computer science. You know what I just said right there. 1 plus 2 doesn't equal 3 according to a computer. It's 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. You know, so the closest thing I came to when it comes to the soul is it's the spark.